Hello, everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to set up a monthly budget in Excel. So this was a requested video. So I'm going to walk through this step by step, showing you how to input your formulas and create a little design that makes it easier to view. So if you're interested, please click that thumbs up button and also stay tuned. First thing I want to do is tap or click on home. Okay, right here at the top. And I want to change the font and the size, just a little cosmetic update so it's more interesting while we set this up. So before I do that, what I'm going to do is click in right here where it says this name box here. This is to show you where you're highlighted. So I'm in A1 and I'm going to just click and hold and then drag my mouse as far as I can go. Maybe I'll go all the way to Z. And I'm going to change the font. So right here in this font section is where you can click to see the font that was chosen for you. I'm going to type in Congenial Black, which is, I just like that font. And I'm going to make this 12-point font, okay? That's just to make the font look different. So we're gonna start with our income. I'm typing in income here. And then I'm also going to type in the amount here, and then in column C, row 1, I'm typing in date. And then to expand the borders so you can see all of the font or the text, right here, I'm just going to hold my mouse over between column B and C. This is the cell that I want to expand, and I'm just going to double click, and it'll automatically space it out so I can see the wording. So now below income, I'm going to just type in full-time job. Okay, and in column B, row 2, I'm going to put the amount of that job, which let's say for a month is $2,500, okay? And then the date, let's say April 1st. We'll write April 1, 2022. And then I'll go back to column A, row 3, and I'll type in part-time job. Let's assume you have another job and there's 3 sources of income. And for the part-time job, maybe it's $700 per month, not 70, but 700. And we'll just, for ease of the video, we'll put April 1st for all of the pay dates. Your pay dates, of course, would fluctuate and be different depending on how your employer pays you. And then also we'll put side hustle. And the side hustle, let's say $450 a month, okay? And now after I've typed in all of those, I'm going to go back because I can't see all of my wording here. I'm going to hover my mouse between the 2 columns where I need it to be spaced. And I'm just going to double click and it will automatically space it out for me so I don't have to click and drag. You could hover your mouse between the 2 columns or the 2 rows, and you could click and drag, right, until you get to the right amount of space, or you could just double click and it'll automatically do it for you. Now I want to change the format in B2, B3, and B4. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can just click inside the cell that you want to work with, and then you click and you drag your mouse down to highlight all of the cells you need to be formatted. And when I say format, I mean I'm going to change this to appear as a number, a dollar symbol. You can use whatever symbol of the currency in which you use. Here in this white taskbar, there's a section called number, and I'm going to click in this box. Right now, the number format is general. So I'm going to click on the arrow and I'm going to choose accounting because we are going to be setting up some formulas to calculate the total monthly income, the annual monthly income, and our expenses. So I'm going to click accounting, and that automatically changes this to a currency, okay? And for the date, I actually want the date to be spelled out in a short format. So I'm going to click in the row or in the cell that I need, which is C2. And then I'm going to drag my mouse down so that I can highlight those three. And I'm going to go back to number. And right now it's set to custom. So I'm going to click on the down arrow and I'm going to choose short date. So this is how the date will appear inside those three cells. So I click there and boom, it's changed. So the next thing I want to do is I want to highlight A1, B1, and C1. That's the column and the number of the cell. So I'm going to click in the cell. I'm going to click a second time and I'm just going to drag my mouse across so that I can highlight row 1 in A, B, and C. And all I'm going to do now is head over back to this white taskbar, I want to call it. There's a section here called styles. And I'm going to choose cell styles. I'm going to click here because I want to just kind of give this a little bit of a better look. I want to do some cosmetic updates and I want to separate it so I know that this is basically a section that's totaling what you're bringing in as far as income. So I'm going to choose this here. It says note, and you see it automatically changed the color, the background of those three words in those cells. So now that I have that done, I already have this highlighted. I want to center the wording. I want to have it look separate from the information that's typed in rows 2, 3, and 4. So what I'm going to do is go to this section that says alignment. Excel makes this very easy. And then I'm going to choose this middle align. So it's the second choice from the left. I'm going to click that. And then on the bottom, this is a center align. So I want to center the content that's in those cells. That's the second option on the bottom from the left. So I'm going to click there. And now all of the content I have in A1, B1, and C1 is now centered. All right, and it's separate. So now I know I'm looking at a specific set of information related to the income. So we have where the income is coming from. So these three are the sources: full-time job, part-time job, side hustle. And then we have the amount for the month: $2,500 for full-time, $700 for part-time, $450 for side hustle, and then the date. All right, and now what I want to do is I'm going to start creating my fixed expenses. So before I do that, I want to lock the cells or freeze the cells. So anytime I scroll down, I don't lose sight of how much income there is. So I'm going to just left click on this row here, row 5. And then I'm going to head over to the top menu. So these are different menus here. I want to click on view. So click on view, and then further to the right of this new white box, I'm going to choose freeze panes. This will freeze a portion of the sheet to keep it visible while you scroll throughout the rest of the sheet. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click freeze panes because it's going to freeze the pane that I highlighted. All right, so freeze panes. And then I'm going to click anywhere in the spreadsheet. And now you can see there's a faint black line running across in between rows 4 and 5. So I'm just going to scroll down. And as I scroll down, the income section is still visible. So no matter where you go in your spreadsheet, you'll always see what the income is for each. Okay. So now we're going to look at our fixed expenses, and we're going to type in the information that we need. So we're going to skip a line. So instead of starting in row 5, I'm going to start in row 6 with our fixed income. So I'm going to type fixed income here. No, fixed expenses, excuse me. Fixed expenses, I'm going to skip a row, or skip a cell rather, and then I'm going to type in variable expenses. I'm going to skip another row and I'm going to type in savings. I'm going to skip another row and type in debt. I'm going to skip again, and I'm going to type in investments. So you may not need these certain buckets or categories for your different type of expenses, whether that be your bills, your rent or mortgage, or any utilities, or maybe you don't have anything like tolls, like if you have an easy pass for toll roads or bridges for transportation. Maybe you don't have, if you have any other transportation costs that could vary, it's not significant each month. You may have different things. If you have savings, maybe you're saving for your emergency fund, right? I'm typing these in as just examples of how they fit into each bucket. So we're going to focus on our fixed expenses bucket. All right, so you'll notice that the words are overhanging. So I'm going to bring my mouse back in between the columns where I need the content to be spread out and to be visible. So I'm going to double click, and there it automatically adjusts so I can see all of the content there. And then I'm doing the same thing in column C. I want the wording to fit within that cell, so I'm just going to double click. I'll do the same thing in E. I'll do the same thing in I, between I and J. So now I can see what I'm typing in. So I'm going to probably type in car gas here, or car fuel. Either way, it's said. And emergency fund, and then maybe you have what's popularly known as sinking funds. So that could fit under here because sinking funds are savings, right? They're saving funds. They're small accounts or mini cash envelopes where you're saving up for a specific item to pay annually, semi-annually, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. You can save for that. And then also, I believe everyone should have a general savings or a family savings that you just put money in randomly or automatically, so that whenever there's something comes up, like a vacation or a family outing or something, you have that already saved up. It's just a preference. So to each his own. For debt, most people have student loan debt. So you could put student loans, and then I'm going to make that fit. It could be your mortgage. If you're paying off your mortgage, there's a mortgage debt, or there's an auto loan. Let's say that. And then some people do still have credit card debt. Most people have had credit card debt. I've been there. So we'll put those in. And then for investments, you think of your 401k through your employer, if they offer that, or 403b, any type of teachers have certain investments that their employer matches, or you have an individual retirement account. So you could put your IRA, and there's Roth, there's traditional, there's different kinds, but you could put whatever type of investments you have here. Maybe rental properties, you're investing in that. You could put that here as a way to track your different categories. I'm going to go back over to fixed expenses and now continue to list out the things that normally you would find with a regular typical budget. So your housing costs, your rent or your mortgage, utilities, that could be your water bill, your electricity bill, that could be your gas bill, that could be your internet if you don't separate it. And then also you may have a cell phone. So your cell phone, you pay that monthly or however. And then you have other fixed expenses that have a specific due date. So maybe you're paying to Verizon for something, you put the name of the person there. I'm just going to fill in these categories just so that we can get an idea of how to create a budget that works. You may have more expenses than this. I'm just trying to show how to calculate the information. So for variable expenses, maybe we can add childcare, or maybe no, childcare should go, we'll put childcare under fixed expenses, and under variable, let's put like household, for household products and household cleaning and stuff like that. And for savings, we could do our home down payment. That could be one, or just down payment, because it could be a down payment for any large expense. And then for investments, we could do like taxable brokerage. So that could be anything like your Robinhood or your M1 Finance. So we'll put that here. All right, and then in the column adjacent to the categories that we have, we are going to put in our amounts. So I'm going to highlight those cells. I'm going back to home, okay? And I'm looking in this section here that says numbers, so I can change this to accounting, okay? Before we even type anything in, you can already pre-fill the cells to match whatever content you're going to type into that. I'm also going to highlight these cells here, and I'm going to change that to accounting, and I'll do the same thing on this side for savings, for debt, and investments. So everything can be uniform when we're ready to type in our information, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the titles. You could call them titles. So we have our fixed expenses, our variable expenses, our savings, debt, and investments. I'm going to go back to styles. And on sales styles, we're going to click note to separate that. This is the bucket, and these are the categories under the bucket, the contents of that bucket. We have our fixed expenses bucket, our variable expenses bucket, our savings bucket, our debt bucket, and our investments bucket. So now we're going to type in the amounts. So rent or mortgage, let's say that's $500 per month. Utilities, $100 per month. And again, these things vary from person to person. Personal finance is personal. I'm just using this to show you how to set this up. Cell phone, let's say that's $100 per month. Childcare, which is expensive, $500 per month. Okay, and we're going to total these expenses starting here. So this is how we get our total. We're going to click right next to variable expense, right in between fixed and variable expenses. And you don't have to put it here, but this is just to show you how to set up the formula. You're going to type in equal, the equal symbol right here, and SUM for sum. And you see that there's a box that pops up that gives you different functions and different items to add or to multiply or to divide. So we want the sum of all of the amounts that we typed in previously. So I'm going to put a open parentheses, okay? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my mouse, I'm going to click in the cell below that. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and with the functional arrows, I'm going to go down until I highlight all of the cells in which I want a total for. Okay? So then once I do that, I let go of the shift key, and I'm just going to hit enter, and boom, it totaled the sum of all of these expenses. So our total fixed expenses for the month so far on this spreadsheet is $1,200. Now we move over to variable expenses. Now this is highlighted, means you don't type in any information here. The information is preloaded for you, right? So we know that this is a calculation of all of our fixed expenses. And if I were to add an expense, let's say we have cable or cable/internet. Can't do that. Let's say our cell phone, we have now a plan. We're paying off for a cell phone, or you finance the cell phone. So that's an extra of $25 per month. So we change this from 100 to 125, and that automatically changes the amount of our fixed expenses total. Now, if you need to cover more cells, let's say you have more expenses, you're simply going to update your formula in this cell, which is B6, okay, right next to your fixed expenses. So if we're adding something, let's say we're adding cable/internet, right? And your cable internet is $200, let's say, per month. We need to first change the format. So we go over to number, we click in general, and we change it to accounting. So now This is an actual accounting number. This is a currency. And then we're going to go back up to our formula here. And you see there's a caution sign because there's more information now that we put in that we need to calculate. So we'll click here. And then we can choose update formula to include cells. So we'll click that and boom, it automatically changes for you. So there are two ways to correct that. You can do what I did. I added an additional line item under fixed expenses and an amount. After changing the currency, this formula here, there was a caution symbol that shows that there was some type of error. You click on that caution symbol and it'll give you options to include the additional cell, the additional information you input. Or you could simply click on this cell here, and in this formula bar right here, you could choose, you could tap into it, and you can it'll show you what cells are being calculated or the formula fits for. And then you can just change the location. Okay, you can add new locations. You can say, I want you to calculate from B7 to B12 or B13 or B14. That's another way for you to calculate the totals, okay? Now we'll do the same thing with variable expenses. Now for our variable expenses, let's say car fuel on a monthly basis, $100, depending on where you live. Tolls and bridges, maybe that's $25 per month. Transportation, that could be maybe taking alternate transportation. Let's say that's $20 per month. Or parking, maybe you have to pay for parking or something like that. Household goods, maybe you're spending $75 per month on household goods. And again, if you wanted to add an additional cell, you could, but we want to calculate these cells here. So I'm going to type, click in the box. This is D6, right to the right of your variable expenses. And we're going to type in our formula again so that we can get the sum of these expenses, these variable expenses. So we'll type equal and type sum, and then we'll do our open parentheses. And we will take our mouse and we will click in the cell just below that. We'll hold down the shift key, and with our directional arrow down, we'll highlight the rest of the cells that we need to be calculated. And just for good measure, let's also add the one below it. And then we'll type enter. And you see that the number, the total, has been automatically populated here because of the formula we used. All right, and again, if you change anything, if maybe your transportation expenses gets decreased, it's going to decrease your total here. Now we'll move on to savings. So for savings for the emergency fund, you want to set a goal for yourself. Maybe your goal is $100 per month to get started. And for your short-term savings or sinking funds, maybe you're putting $50 per month. And this is your budget working out. General savings, let's say we want to put $200 per month there. And you're saving for a down payment. Maybe it's a car or to buy a property, something like that. You want to put the largest amount here because that's your top goal. You want to put $500 per month. All right. And then your debt. If you have any debt, student loans are on pause right now for most people, and we are praying for them to be canceled altogether. Say we're paying $100 a month. And for mortgage, and this could be your extra mortgage payment that you would like to say, let's say we put an additional $25, and you have an auto loan that you're paying down. So maybe that's another $125 per month. And a credit card or a few credit cards, depending on where you are. This credit card could be, let's say, $80 per month. And then you have to total it. So we'll type equal, sum, open parentheses, we'll click in the cell below, we'll hold down the shift key, and we'll highlight with the down directional arrow the rest of the cells that we want to be calculated. And we'll hit enter, and automatically that's how much your extra debt payments would be. We forgot to do it here. So let's go back to savings, equal, sum, open parentheses. We'll click in the cell below that. We'll hold our shift key. With the directional arrow going down, we'll highlight those cells that we want to be totaled or calculated, and we'll hit enter, and there, $850 is our savings goal for the month in this budget. All right, so investments. Investments is not highlighted. The cell next to it is not highlighted. So I'm going to go back to cell styles, and I'm going to choose note under the date and model section. So I'll click that, and now we have that. So we'll go back to the 401k. Let's say your pre-tax contributions to your 401k is, it could be 10, 15, it could be 5, 10, 15%. So let's just put a dollar amount here, and let's say your pre-tax contributions is $100. Could be more, could be less, depending on your situation. The IRA, that's post-tax contribution. So after your paycheck is given to you, once all taxes and everything else comes out, you decide to put a certain dollar amount towards your Roth IRA. Let's say that's $50. And then rental properties. Maybe you own a rental property, or maybe you're about to invest, or maybe you're saving to invest in a rental property, and you want that to be $200 per month. Taxable brokerage, maybe this is where you're playing with some stocks and different options and whatnot, ETFs, index funds, whatever. Then you want to set aside a set of money so you can invest on your own. And so that, let's put $100 per month. Now we need to total. There is another way to do this, okay? You can type in equals sum, and then you can put the open parentheses, and you can literally type in the cells that you want to be calculated. So we're in row J, okay, column J, row 6. Well, we need column J, row 7, 8, 9, I'm sorry, 7, 8, 9, 10, and possibly 11 to be calculated. So let's type J 7, comma, J 8, comma, J 9, comma, J 10. That's another way to do it. You can literally type them in, but for the easiest and most fastest way, and of course, if the section in which you're calculating changes, like you add new categories, you can just click in the cell below, hold down the shift key, directional arrow down until you highlight all of the cells in which you want to total, and then hit enter. And there you go. Again, if I add something, let's say I add something here. This is just miscellaneous, something random that you don't want to talk about. And you're going to put $45 there. We're going to first change this format currency to accounting. Okay. And then we're going to go here, and we're going to change this. We're going to add, let's say, Robinhood, and that's $50. We're going to say, let's say M1 Finance, and that's $75. And it's automatically coming up because we've already placed the calculations here. And then we want to say, let's say Coinbase, which is cryptocurrency. Let's say you want to do that. That's $40. So we need to change the format, right, to accounting. And then we need to make sure that see, now the caution sign comes up because, we've added new categories and we need to update our formula. So I'll click here on the caution symbol, and I'll choose to update formula to include cells. And there we go. We have $660 now for our investments for the month. Okay, so now we're looking at April, and we've typed out our income, expected income for the month. We have typed out our expenses from fixed, variable, savings, debt, and investments. Now, I want to make sure that we know how much income we're working with so we can subtract it and find out if we are on budget or over budget. So I'm going to insert a cell now, or insert a row. So because I want to total up these and I don't want that information too close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on row 5. That's the one space between our income section and our expenses section. So I'll right click here and a menu box will pop up. And I'm going to click on insert. And I'm just going to left click there, and it inserted a row for me. So I'm going to click anywhere in my spreadsheet to make sure that I still have my freeze panes. So no matter where I scroll within the spreadsheet, I can still see our income, okay? Because your expenses may be much more than this, and you'll need to write in more content, and you want to make sure you can still see what income you're working with. So I want to total the amount of income for this month, this monthly budget in Excel. So right below here, I'm going to type in our formula, equals sum. I'm going to open the parentheses, and then I'm going to click and scroll up. I want to just select all of the cells that are going to tell me what my total income is, or projected income for this monthly budget. Now, you hit enter, it will automatically fill it out for you. It'll automatically do the calculation. So this monthly budget is working with an income of $3,650. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and find out if the total of our expenses will match, will equal what our income is, or if we need to decrease something in some of these areas. So the very first thing, we know that all of our expenses are totaled. Our fixed expenses are $1,425, variable expenses are $215, savings is $850, debt is $330, and investments $660, with the option to change things if we need to, because we may be over budget. But let's take a look. So I want to calculate that. So you can do it anywhere. You can set this up anywhere, but the purpose of this video is to show you how to set up your formulas. So right here, next to all of our expenses, I'm going to change the cell type to what's called check cell, and I'm going to click that. So we know by looking at this, this is going to be a cell that we don't have to type in after we type in our formula. We'll just check here to see if we have a zero-based budget, if every single dollar matches our income. So this is how we do it. We're going to type in equal, and we want the sum of this. Hold down the control key, hit the next cell, and then the next cell that has the information that you want to be totaled, this cell, and this cell, okay? And you're going to put a close parentheses, and you're going to minus what's in this cell, and you hit enter. So in this cell now, we're going to type in the formula to total up our fixed, variable, savings, debt, and investments. So we'll hit type equal sum, and we're going to type in the cells. So we know that the first cell we need to figure out total put in this formula is B7. So B7, all right, and we'll type a comma. We'll also want to total up D7, and it's highlighting the areas in which I need to be calculated. So that will let you know that you're on the right path. F7, comma, H7, comma, J7. And then you close the parentheses and you hit enter. That is the total amount of our fixed expenses, $3,435. So now that we have that, we need to subtract this amount from our total income for the month, which is $3,650. So we appear just by first glance to be under budget. So what I'm going to do next to that cell, I'm going to go back, I'm going to click in it, go back to cell styles, and I'm going to put calculation just to give it a different look. Okay, so we're going to tap equal, and we're going to click in K7, right? And we're going to subtract it from B5, and we're going to tap enter. So that's, oh, and we did it backwards. So now I can fix this because we're not $215 over budget. We're $215 under budget. Basically, all of our expenses don't equal our income. So if you are doing a zero-based budget, that means every dollar gets an assignment. No dollar is left just up to chance, right? Even if the amount of money that you have left over after you've saved, invested, paid all your bills and whatnot, you could leave that money in your account as a cushion. So you could always add a variable expense or miscellaneous expense. You could put cushion here or buffer. Most people call it a buffer. Me personally, I call it a cushion. It just, that feels right to me. But if you want to add that $215 that you're short, you can put it right here. And now you have a zero-based budget because that just went from being $215 over to 0. You have a zero-based budget, and we want to change this to accounting, of course, because we don't want that to, all right, to look, we want this to be uniform. So this is just a sample of how to set up your budget and how to calculate the totals. You can format this, you can make it as pretty as you want, as plain as you want. You can use whatever colors, whatever fonts, whatever makes you feel happy. But I hope that you've gained some valuable information about how to exactly set up your formulas to get your totals. So I did something different when I subtracted our total expenses from our total income for the month. Instead of using sum, I just simply subtracted one cell from another, or the content of one cell from the content of another cell. So this total initially was $215 less, right? And we had $215 left over. Now you could do whatever you want with it, whatever is left over from your budget. You could take that money and put it towards a debt, whether you're doing a debt snowball method or a debt avalanche method, it just depends. But whatever extra money is left over at the end of the month, you can choose what you want to do with it. Now, there may be categories that you see here that you wouldn't have, or you may think that there are missing categories. That's fine. The purpose of this tutorial was just to show you how to set up your formulas, how to calculate the totals, and you can even do percentages. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to just highlight some rows, some cells in row 17, and I'm going to format these cells to look like this, okay? And I did type a formula in here, so I'm just gonna delete that. Okay, so here we are in column A, row 17, or cell A17. I'm going to skip there and I'm going to go right to B17. And I want the percentage of this total of my income. How much of my income in percentages is going to my fixed expenses? So I'll just type in the equal sign. That's how you start any formula. You'll click in the cell that you need the information to start. We want this number here divided by our total monthly income. And it gives us a fraction here, but we want this to be in percentage. So I'll go ahead to this section and you can choose percentage here, or you could have just clicked the symbol here. So 39% of our fixed expenses totaled here. 39% of our income is going towards fixed expenses. And we'll do the same thing for our variable expenses. We'll type equal to start our formula. We'll select the cell that we want to start with. We'll hit the divide button, which is basically the / button on your keyboard. And we'll choose the second cell that we want to be included in this formula, which is B5, and we'll tap in enter. And again, the format is going to be in fractions here, but we want to change this to a percentage. And that gives us 12%. So 12% of our budgeted expenses, variable expenses, is of our income. So then we'll do the same thing for savings. We'll equal, and we'll choose the cell. We'll hit the / button. That means divide. And we'll divide that by our monthly income and tap enter. Again, here you get the fractions. You'll just type percentage. And then we'll do the same thing with debt. We'll equal the debt total / which is the divide button, by this information in B5. We'll tap enter, and we'll go ahead and format that to a percentage, okay? And we'll do the same thing for our investments. Equal total number of investments divided by total income for the month, tap enter, and we'll get our next percentage, okay? Or our fraction will change to a percentage, so 17%. 17% of our incoming income is going towards investments. 9% of our incoming income is going towards debt. 23% is going towards savings. 12% is going towards variable expenses. 39% going towards fixed expenses. So you can see how much of your income is going where, and depending on what your focus is in the season you're in your life, you would want this section here to be at least around 25 to 30%. So this seems a bit high. And of course it would be, because childcare, if you have children, is really expensive. So this is just a guide. It's not written in stone. It's not like black or white, like you have to do this or you're failing. Whatever your percentages are, just make sure you're focused on what is most important to you at the time. After you take care of the things you need to take care of, look at how much you can save, reduce your debt, or increase your assets, okay, by investing. I hope this was helpful to you. Please leave me any comments and feedback below. I'd be happy to go over any section that wasn't clear or that you need more information about, because this is where we share knowledge and information here. I'm not sharing financial advice. I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm simply sharing my journey and also giving you tips on how to set up your budget in Excel. So thank you so much for being here. Remember to mind your money, manage it well, and live your lives abundantly. Bye for now.